Everyone says the hack and slash genre is dead, but that's not true. Today, 15 games, swords, blood, and combos for every taste. For 20 years, Disgaea was a tactics game where you ran your squad from a bird's eye view and counted tiles on a grid. Mayhem throws all of that out. It already came out in Japan earlier this year as Kuren Makeism, so there's no guessing how it turned out. This is basically a Muzu wearing Disgaea's skin, where you personally carve through monster crowds as a mercenary called N.A., while a sweet-toothed princess named Tichelle demands her flan. 7 weapon classes, damage grinding into the absurd millions, the item world, reincarnation, bills you push through the local parliament, the good old prinnies in your party. This one is in the hands of Bitmap Bureau, the people behind Xenocrisis and Terminator 2D No Fate. So when it comes to retro brawlers, they know every bone in the body. The plot is pure Saturday morning cartoon. Skeletor digs up the Dragon Pearl of Destruction, teams with Evil Lyn, and it falls to He-Man, Teela, and Man-at-Arms to defend Eternia across 12 stages of pixel art beatdowns drawn straight out of the 80s show. You can fight through it 2-player on one couch, She-Ra unlocks along the way, and even Battle Cat charges in. It looks great, and I'd be playing already if not for one thing. The date got pushed just 2 weeks before launch, from April 28th to a vague summer window with still no firm day. It's a digital release, no cartridge promised yet, and on Switch 2 you'll be playing it through backward compatibility. Mexico, Dia de los Muertos, and a blend of Metroidvania and beat 'em up. You play Detective Pablo Cruz, who strikes a deal with death herself and turns into the mighty La Sombra to descend into the underworld after a stolen amulet. It's made by Halberd Studios, the same team behind 9 Years of Shadows, and their lush pixel animation is recognizable right away. The neat hook is a day, night, and full moon system that reshapes areas you've already cleared, plus tarot cards that hand out abilities. The date, though, is a mess. Some sources say the second quarter of 2026, others June 30th, and Steam lists the fourth quarter outright. Treat any of those numbers with suspicion. There's no separate Switch 2 version announced, so this runs on the original Switch. Funny detail, this cozy shopkeeping game is published by 11-Bit Studios, the folks behind the relentlessly bleak This War of Mine and Frostpunk. Quite the contrast. The Moonlighter sequel splits your life in two again. By day, you run your own shop in the little village of Tresna. By night, you dive into dangerous dungeons for loot. The famous backpack is back, and how you arrange your haul inside it still affects what it's worth. The big change is that the flat 2D look of the first game has become isometric 3D, and the early access build has been earning a warm reputation since last autumn, especially after the Greed and Glory update. One important caveat for us: it's launching on Switch 2 only. Original Switch owners won't get it, and there's no firm date beyond a fuzzy late 2026. Dead Cell-style runs, Katana Zero pacing, and the suffocating dread of Dead Space. That's how the developer pitches Katanaut, and the pitch is honest. A space station is losing its mind, its inhabitants have twisted into monsters, and you cut your way through procedural corridors with a katana, building loadouts from weapons, implants, and perks. The interesting part is that all of this was made by one person, the studio Voidmaw, and on PC it launched last autumn to a warm welcome, around 90% positive on Steam. Switch and Switch 2 versions are officially in the works, but there's no date, and the obvious question for handheld is whether a solo developer can hold a steady frame rate where this kind of action needs every drop of performance.
With many hands, you protect my journey.
Moon Studios made its name with the tender Ori platformers, and here it's rolled out a grim isometric action RPG with Souls-like combat and visuals that look like they walked off a Caravaggio canvas. You play a Sarim warrior tasked with stopping a plague on the island of Isola Sacra, and across 2 years of early access, the game has sold more than 1.8 million copies. The full release, with 60 hours of new content, a horde mode, and reworked classes, arrives in October on PC and PS5. Here's the part that needs saying plainly. On Switch 2, it lands later, and with no date, because the studio's director openly admitted Nintendo's hardware needs far heavier optimization due to its smaller memory budget, and they won't ship a rough port there. So it definitely won't launch day and date with everyone else on Switch 2, and how the port turns out is anyone's guess.
Can't protect anyone.
The official platforms are PC, PlayStation, and Xbox, and I'm not going to pass it off as a Nintendo title. As for the game itself, it's an unhinged 2.5D beat-em-up with roguelike elements from the Colombian studio Mad Bricks. It's set in Nuevo Tokyo, a city born when Mexican narcos and the Japanese Yakuza fused into one gang called the Narcuzas. The humor is as crude as it gets. Fart attacks, a skill tree literally called the Way of the Donkey, and swearing in 2 languages. Tonally, it sits somewhere between Streets of Rage and Guacamelee, and it looks lively. But for the Nintendo crowd, all you can do is hope a port gets announced one day. This is probably the best-looking game on the list. Talaka paints Afro-Brazilian mythology in watercolor. The world looks brushed straight onto canvas. No hard outlines, colors bleeding into one another. The gameplay is a fast-action roguelite the developers themselves compare to Hades and Dead Cells. You pick a weapon, clear arenas, build up your run, and head for a boss. All of it set to live drums and chants recorded with actual Afro-Brazilian musicians. It's made by the Brazilian studio Potato Kid under publisher Acclaim. Switch is listed among the platforms, but the date is hazy. Some previews say 2026, others push the Steam release into 2027, so it's too early to expect a firm Switch date. The small Croatian team Downtown Game Studio has taken on something almost nobody touches. A game built on Slavic mythology and Croatian folklore, based on a poem about the Black Queen, Barbara of Scilly. It's a cinematic 2.5D action-adventure, and in mood it leans toward Inside, Neva, and God of War. A knight returns from the Crusades, learns an evil queen has cast his homeland into darkness, and sets off through enchanted forests and wastelands with an axe in hand. The art noticeably recalls old Disney animation, just in far darker tones, and the Black Queen is voiced by Croatian actress Sandra Lončarić.
Forge their own destinies.
So you're looking for some runaway ninja?
Vanillaware is pulling one of its most beautiful classics back off the shelf, Muramasa. The Demon Blade first appeared on Wii in 2009, then got the rebirth version on Vita, and now it returns a third time with resolution up to 4K, a fresh localization, and, for the first time, full English voice acting. All 6 stories with their different heroes are in from the start, including the Vita extras. And the combat is that signature side-scrolling hack and slash about swordsmith Muramasa's cursed blades that grant power and breed madness.
I shall make him pay.
Let's show them we farmers have speed.
You?
Improve your skills. Cut down your enemies. Battle after.
Love Dead Cells but wish you played a robot instead of a nameless hero? Here's your candidate. Oblivion Override is a roguelite Metroidvania from the studio Humble Mill, where you control a combat bot named Crimson and slice through a post-apocalyptic base with an arsenal of more than 24 melee weapons. The style grabs you immediately. Cyberpunk, fluid animation, mean bosses, with Castlevania and Mega Man Zero as the obvious inspirations. On PC, the game left early access long ago and holds 9 in 10 Steam reviews positive, which for the genre is a great sign. The catch is singular. Console versions, Switch included, have been announced for ages, yet there's still no firm release date. This one deserves a big asterisk because its road has dragged on to the point of awkwardness. Kloa is a handcrafted pixel art action-adventure from WildPad Games, drawing on Studio Ghibli films and the Zelda series with clear notes of Hyper Light Drifter. You play a young girl, Kloa, the only one who can lift the Ikari curse from a dying forest as it warps animals into monsters, fighting with a katana and a special moon bow while solving puzzles along the way. A Switch version was confirmed back on Kickstarter, which comfortably raised over 80,000 euros. But here's the trouble. It was originally aimed at late 2023, and the game still isn't out and has no firm date. The project is effectively in limbo, and promising anything concrete here would be dishonest. The wildest idea in the bunch. Metavoidal is, in the developer's own words, a rock and roguelite. You're a drummer who flunked an audition for a metal band that turned out to be a gang of eldritch monsters, and now you fight through hordes of their possessed fans using the power of music. On paper, it sounds like a fever dream, and that's the whole charm. The combat is built around rhythm, and the vibe is deliberately loud and silly. It's made by the small Yellow Lab Games, and on PC it's been available since last summer. A Switch version is announced, but there's still no firm date on Nintendo hardware, so for now it's an intriguing oddity on the radar rather than a release with a solid window. Swiss studio Sunnyside Games is expanding its flame-wielding platformer Nocturnal into a full Metroidvania. The core hook is unchanged and still lovely. You carry a flame with you, light your sword from it, and use that fire to push back the encroaching dark. But the flame is easy to put out, and you have to keep feeding it at fire sources or you're left defenseless in the black. It's all hand-drawn with a focus on stylish acrobatic combat set in the slumbering city of Aitash. Closing the list is a blocky dungeon crawler with a friendly $29.99 price tag. Minecraft Dungeons 2 is a direct sequel to the Mojang hack and slash, and co-developing again is Double 11, the team that once handled the first game's ports and DLC, so they know the formula inside out. Inside is exactly what you'd expect. A new threat, fresh locations, hordes of mobs, and 4-player co-op, online or on one couch. Skepticism is warranted. For all its charm, the original took flack for a short campaign and fairly bland combat. And the whole question for the sequel is whether it finally adds some depth, or whether it's another pleasant but forgettable weekend. At least there are versions for both Switch and Switch 2.